This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, this is Bashir from Tech Solutions. So today we are going to talk about a very important question that is being asked in a technical round of your database testing interview. Let's say that, or any interviews, let's say that in software testing interview, at the end of the interview or in the middle of the interview, they will ask that what did you validate in the database in your current project or previous project, and how did you validate database. Hmm. So this question basically, there are two part. First part, you can say that what data did you validate in database, and second part is how did you validate the data. So let me write it down, the questions. The first question is like that: what data did you validate in database? And question number two: how did you validate the data? So there are two questions basically. You need to prepare these two questions and you need to answer hmm, one by one, so that actually cover something like that. What did you validate or how did you validate all together in a single question? So how you answer this question? Let's say that if you got a banking application as your current project, and then how do you answer this question? Suppose you know the functionalities like um, let's say um, let's say that you have a function like a customer can submit a dispute. So I would say that uh, after, you can say, after the hmm, customer submits a dispute, I validate uh, that new record hmm, was created. You can say like this, was created in the dispute table, with with uh, we can say correct transaction ID. You can say customer ID, customer ID. You can talk about dispute reason, reason. You can talk about status, dispute status, or there can be after the status, and after once the dispute is submitted, there can be a reference number, reference number, all these things you validate. You check that hmm, that reference number and including transaction ID, customer ID, all the data has been inserted into the database table. And after that, you can say that maybe there can be update, so that let's say that the status, I mean status uh, can be created, status can be open, in progress, resolved, or denied, so down the road, if the status is when the requested has been submitted, request has been submitted, that time the status is open, right? And after that, when they're working on it, it can, the status can be changed in progress, so we need to check back database time to time, and then status is resolved. If it is resolved, then status can be denied as well, right? Create as well. So we have to check this status in database. Okay. So pretty much these things you can talk about. Also, sometimes you can check that whether duplicate dispute uh, is was created. Let's say that today the customer created a dispute, and then and the following day you can see that another record has been created. So we need to make sure that there will not be any duplicate record in the database. So these are pretty much if you have a um, banking application. Sometimes you might have a different functionality. Let's say that you were talking about transaction, so that maybe transfer or transaction, maybe transaction amount, transaction type, date and time, status, account number, between UI and API and database. All these things you can check. And how about if you have uh, let's say you got health insurance as your current project, and you are testing some functionalities like 270, 271, 270, 271, eligibility verification, verification. So how do you verify those? So let's say that you can say I verified information, uh, including what you can say that cover status, cover status, effective date, effective date. You can talk about termination date. You can talk about benefit details, details. You can talk about let's say these are things you can talk about in both components. Let's say that uh, in UI and API, both places, hmm, and database. Okay, so UI, API, and database, so that it can be displayed in UI, and you can check database, and you can check in API also. You can update, something from UI, it can check back database. You can update something from API, you can check back database. So database you need to check always, right? Another thing, maybe there can be API testing directly. You can say that EDI, electronic data interchange, EDI API, data, um, such as you can say that eligibility, information was correctly mapped and stored in database. That also need to check in database. There can be some, let's say there's some update, coverage update, so that coverage updates can be um, updated properly in database, and also API response coming the same. If you have worked on claim ID, or claim information, claim ID, provider service date, there can be some billed amount, there can be some allowed amount, claim status, all these things you check in database as well. So this is actually the functionalities, what functionalities in check back in database. But how do you validate those data? Hmm? These functionalities data you can check back in database, that so that um, you can talk about that acceptance criteria. You can get the data from acceptance criteria, from expected results, and you can check back in database. Also, there can be a Excel file. You can get the data and you check back in database. You can compare those data into database. And how did you validate the data? That actually little different way you can talk about. This is called data integrity. So let's say that I can talk about data integrity. So let's say that is actually nothing but uh, that data completeness. You can talk about that, the complete data belonging to uh, each table. Each table so should be stored uh, after any UI change. Okay, so the complete data after any UI change, the complete data should be stored in the database. stored in the database after any UI change. So you can talk about this. Also, you can talk about. I mean, that means there should not be any missing data. So I check that there should not be any missing data. Another thing is data correctness. You can talk about data correctness. That means data uh, stored in database is correct. Data stored in database is correct and in the right place. The right place. So that also right table or right column. It is being stored. We can talk about this. Data type as well. You can check the data type. Data type means there are different kinds of data listed that varchar. You can talk about char. You can talk about int. You can talk about numeric data. Numeric data, float data, date, time, or if it is date and time together, it's called timestamp. Stamp. We check those data type. We check data size. Data size also, because data size actually we check in UI a lot, but sometimes we check back in database that sizes are correct. Also, we check that duplicate data. Duplicate data. Check that was there any same data or same row created twice or same data showing two times in a different cell. So we can check that. Hmm? Uh, Not populating any duplicate data. So these are the main thing you need to talk when you have a interview and ask this and get this question about what data did you validate or how did you validate data. So you can talk clearly and nicely. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next video.